Well, talk to me about um, developing in emotional ways. How would you describe that work?
Oh, this one is really important because all of them are connected to the spiritual. Let me start by saying
Mm.
that. But when you talk about on an emotional level, it is recognizing that you have control over your emotions, and they all come from your thoughts. What are you thinking about? If you are thinking about things in a way that is going to make you feel stressful and angry and fed up with the world, then you're not taking care of your emotions. And again, this is where that whole gratitude practice comes into play as well, because we realize that there are certain things that we can control and there are certain things that we cannot control. So being willing to release the things that we cannot control. And if we can get ourselves to a space where we don't even want to control things that we cannot, certain people, certain things that are happening in the world around us, what good does it do you to watch the news every night and see all the horrible things that are going on in the world if it's just going to stress you out? What can you do about it? Nothing. So I always tell people, if you want to pray for the world, pray for the world. You don't need to know what every single person is going through to be able to pray for the world, to be able to send love and light to the world. You can just simply send love and light to the world because you just want the world to have more love and light. And when you do that, that affects your emotions. Now you're in a better place emotionally because you're thinking differently. And when you think differently, you feel differently. So your emotions are taken care of.
I would guess it's fairly common for people not to understand that they can change their emotional reactions.
Because we've been taught that we can't for a very long time. I mean, the world is getting better with that now, but for the longest, it was just that's how I am. I'm of a certain race or of a certain culture. This is how we are. Everybody in my family was that way. Okay, well, everybody in your family is dropping dead of heart attacks. Good luck. Everybody in your family has high blood pressure. Okay, that's what you want. But we truly do have the power. And this is when we decide if we're going to step into that higher space. And this is why, again, if you're doing a spiritual practice, over time, you're going to begin to deal with that. You're going to realize that you do have a choice and you do have the power over yourself.
So, LaShawn, if someone is listening to you and thinks, well, wait a second, I've always been an angry person. What do I need to do to step out of that space and react in a different way? What might be the first thing you ask them to suggest or consider?
Wow, that's a fully loaded question. So there's a few things that would go on here. One, there would have to be a conversation about forgiveness and getting them to understand that forgiveness does not mean that what happened to you or what the person said or did was okay, but that you are releasing them so that you can heal. Another portion of that may be, if possible, sometimes getting them to see the other person's perspective. For example, let's say they had a parent that they felt, oh, my parent did not spend enough time with me growing up. But then when my little brother and sister came along years ago, they gave them all the time and attention and money. But what they don't realize is your parents were still growing. They were younger when they had you. So they didn't have the time. They had to work, they had to build their careers. And unfortunately, you didn't get the fruits of their labor the way that your sister and your brother did. Doesn't mean that your parents love you any less. It's just that their life was in a different place. So when we can see things from a different lens, many times it makes it easier for us to heal and for us to move on. The other thing with that is just reminding them to think about what they think about. What are you thinking about when you get angry? You're not just walking around angry for no reason. There are thoughts that you are consistently thinking that are causing you to be angry over and over and over again. And the angrier you get, the more you practice that vibration, the harder that it is to break. But it's not impossible. If you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to start saturating your mind, reading positive things, listening to positive things, maybe changing your surroundings, then it can most certainly happen. And if they're willing to do those things, great. And if they're not, then they will stay in the same position where they are.